What's an anime without its group of organized criminals? Throughout Shonen, there have been many iconic villain teams hosting some of the coolest and most beloved characters in their entire respective series. Among them, the Akatsuki from Naruto are some of the most well-known as well as powerful. However, what would happen if they existed in another universe where they were no longer the only group of villains? What would happen if the Akatsuki had to battle One Punch Man's Hero Association? Hello everyone, welcome back to Long's Takes. Today we're going to be discussing my first major cross-verse topic on this channel, comparing the Akatsuki to the S-Class heroes from One Punch Man. From the very start, I want to make this clear that cross-verse matchups are infinitely more subjective than matchups that are self-contained within their own universe. It becomes much more than simply, oh, this guy is stronger and faster than this guy because we've literally seen it, and becomes a lot more about assigning consistent value to those actual differences in order to compare two characters who have never and probably will never interact. So let me make this clear, there are always alternative ways to interpret a series in a cross-verse sense. Today I'm going to take my own personal look at how I think the characters were to a degree intended to scale, as what causes the most internal consistency within the stories themselves. If you think Itachi is universal, be my guest, but he won't be treated that way here. Before I get any further, comment down below who you think wins this matchup and don't forget to subscribe. I want to see if I changed your mind if by the end of the video, or if you already agree with my final conclusion. On the subject of Itachi, let's begin with the Akatsuki. In order to not waste a crap ton of time going over every single character who's ever been in the Akatsuki, we'll be covering the main members who are members during Shippuden. Zetsu Hidan, Konan Sasori, Deidara, Kakuzu, Itachi, Pain, and Orange Mask Obito. I'm going to try and avoid actually ranking the members of the Akatsuki here, as that subject is a different video entirely. However, it's pretty obvious that not all the members of the Akatsuki are created equal. Still, it's a good idea to try and establish a strength baseline for all of them, which we can then build upon. In Data Book 3, it say that each member of the Akatsuki should be generally stronger than any given Jinchuriki, and that each two-man pair should be able to handle a single-tailed beast in a fight. We see this displayed pretty blatantly to us, with Kisame being able to beat up Roshi with ease, while also stated to be able to output similar power to Jinchuriki while in his fused state. Deidara is implied to have soloed the Three Tails with a single bomb, implying that it was much weaker than it would have been with a host controlling it. Hidan and Kakuzu kill Yugito, who transforms into her Biju state. The problem with nearly all these cases, though, is that we don't know how exactly these fights pan out. Still, I think it's relatively clear that while Akatsuki members in pairs can contend with a single Biju, there's really no proof, at least from these fights, that they scale to or compare to their most powerful attacks these Biju have, which are tailed beast bombs. Biju bombs, launched by said Biju, have been calculated to be around island level in potency, so at least to a very general average, most Akatsuki members besides some special cases should all be low end relative to these levels of power at their absolute best. This is pretty consistent, with Pain's strongest Chibaku Tensei being calced at a slightly weaker level of island level, and Deidara's Suicide Explosion being slightly higher at small country level. While it is not AP, Itachi is able to block Kirin with his Susanoo, which has been calced at lower end of island level as well. In all these cases, most of these instances of the character's strongest attack, something that should scale a good deal higher than just their normal attacks or durability. For a low-end baseline of their physical strength, all of the Akatsuki members should be significantly stronger than characters like Jirobo, who are able to output town levels of power based on launching giant choji into the air with a single strike. We know this scales significantly below even the weakest Akatsuki member, who would be Hidan due to being relative or above Asuma by the Leaf Shinobi's own statement. This is because, despite being as hyped up as they were, the Sound 4 all teaming up together while in their second curse mark states were unable to kill two fatigued Jonin. Given how Asuma is stated to be insanely close to Kakashi in Part 1, who is stated to be the strongest Jonin, this would put Hidan and the rest of the Akatsuki above this tier. So when it purely comes down to attack potency, the weaker members of the Akatsuki, like Hidan, should at bare minimum be town level, while the strongest members like Obito, Pain, and Itachi should all be around island levels of power with their strongest attacks. Next is speed, which is probably even more contentious for the Narutoverse than its power. To not spend too much time in this section, I don't think anyone scales directly to Haku's light speed mirror travel, and I think it's far more consistent that for most of Part 1 in Shippuden, a majority of characters lie within the massively hypersonic range or relativistic range, with some characters reaching light speed and beyond. Let me explain. It's pretty brilliantly told to us that the Raikiri was an attack fast enough to intercept and cut lightning, given how it was performed by Kid Kakashi, and essentially the same jutsu was performed by Sasuke later on. Even Part 1 level characters should be significantly faster than lightning, which instantly justifies a massively hypersonic plus tiering. Given how there are no cases of characters implied to be hundreds or thousands of times faster than each other, I think for the sake of this video, I'll give the Akatsuki the benefit of the doubt, and that for the most part, the slowest Akatsuki are still relativistic, which is faster than 1% of the speed of light, and faster than lightning several times over. For the higher end characters, there's a much stronger argument to be made for them being FTL. Itachi has jutsu that are stated to be light speed and maybe beyond, and characters like Pain and Obito should scale over characters like Mifune or the Raikage, who both have light speed statements in the databooks. So for speed, even the slowest Akatsuki members should be capable of fighting at fractions of light speed, while the strongest members should be beyond, but not significantly beyond the speed of light. I will cover hacks I think will be ultimately relevant at the end of the video, because going over every single member's abilities now would be a total waste of time. Now, let's talk about the S-Class heroes. I think the ones who actively serve will be used here, so I will not be considering Blast in this, because, spoiler alert, he would solo the Akatsuki with ease. This means I'm considering Tatsumaki, Bang, Atomic Samurai, Child Emperor, Boyfoy, King, Zombie Man, Drive Knight, Pig God, Darkshine, Watchdog Man, Flashy Flash, Genos, Metal Bat, Tank Tap Master, and Puri Puri Prisoner. Just like before, it's best to get a baseline of the strength of the S-Class heroes. Just like the Akatsuki, there's a pretty significant range in power between the weaker members of the association and the stronger ones. In One Punch Man, all threats are placed on a scale determining how powerful they are, going from wolf to god level threats. According to these disaster levels, a demon level being is a threat to a single city, while a dragon is a threat to multiple cities. One of the standards for being an S-Class hero is that they should be able to handle a single demon level threat. Even though both Genos and Puri Puri Prisoner, the two weakest S-Class heroes at the time, lost to a demon rank Deep Sea King, they eventually became strong enough to not only one-shot Sea King, but both demonstrate the ability to contend with high demon or dragon level threats by themselves. The idea that demons and dragons are threats to cities in multiple cities does actually mean their destructive capacity and attack potency reach these levels. Beefcake was a demon level threat, and was both shown and stated to easily wipe out cities and towns with his basic strength. In fact, it is his physical strength alone that qualifies him, or rather demonstrates his disaster level according to the databook. Dragon level threats are capable of one-shotting demon level threats, and executive level dragons are capable of easily defeating weaker ones. It's pretty clear that every S-Class hero by the final arc is around city level strength at the bare minimum, besides those like King. There are only a few characters that we can scale any higher for attack potency, those being Metal Bat, Flashy Flash, Bang, Atomic Samurai, and Tatsumaki. Atomic Samurai, while using the Nichiren Blade, was able to cut through Homeless Emperor's Energy Ball, a similar one being able to eradicate a mount-sized portion of land. Fully amped up Metal Bat, Bang, and Flashy Flash are all weaker than, but are able to put up a solid fight against or alongside Monster Garo, who at this time was able to demonstrate power ranging anywhere from island to even continental levels of strength. Finally, there's Tatsumaki, who is on another level of power entirely. She's able to consistently fight Psycho's fused Orochi, who demonstrated a whopping multi-continental feat while at full power, literally cutting a chunk out of the Earth's crust with a beam. When it comes to speed, the One Punch Man first doesn't really have the benefit of the sheer commonness of lightning attacks in order to establish an immediate consistent baseline. However, there are several relativistic feats shown by characters like Atomic Samurai and Genos, who both have been able to dodge or directly react to lasers being fired at them. Given how this Genos was still being pressed by a demon level threat at the time, most of the S-Class should scale above or around this level of speed. If you don't think this is valid, Flashy Flash also has statements both in the databook and directly in the manga's cover that imply he's lightspeed or beyond. Either way, we can really only justify that this would scale to characters who could fight at around the same speed as the Garo that Flashy Flash had fought. So, for this video, most of the S-Class should be relativistic, while some of the stronger ones should be light speed or slightly beyond it. With all of that out of the way, let's get into who I actually think wins. Imagine, if you will, that during an S-Class meeting, a group of high-level demon or even dragon-level people suddenly appear in the city, perhaps with Datara dropping a C4 or Pain launching a massive Chibaku Tensei instantly wiping out the city. The S-Class exit the hero headquarters and come face-to-face with the Akatsuki. The goal is simple. The Akatsuki must eliminate the S-Class, and the S-Class must defeat the Akatsuki. So how does this fight go? Under the assumption that characters would fight those closest to them in ranking, ability, and power, I think a lot of matchups speaks for themselves. Despite their battle lasting ages and plenty of blood being spilled, I think Zombie Man's regeneration would hard counter Hidan's ritual, and Zombie Man would eventually kill him. Being very well equipped to fight multiple opponents and being very tricky to kill, I think Kakuzu and Sasori would give a lot of the lower end S-Class heroes a lot of trouble and could probably beat Tank Top Master, Purpuri Prisoner, Pig God, and Watchdog Man. All of these guys are on the lower end physically compared to the rest of the S-Class heroes and have very little in the way of hacks. Sasori in particular does have a really good chance of beating all of them with his poison, with heroes having very little way to counter it. However, with other characters like Drive Knight and Darkshine, who I think are significantly physically more powerful, they wouldn't last forever. While Datara is very strong with his highest level explosives, and his strongest bombs could probably give the non-flying heroes a really hard time, I think he would have to contend with Drive Knight, Boy Foy, and Child Emperor, all who have massive arsenals and are capable of flight with their tech. One of them would be able to defeat the explosive artist. Hisame is actually a really interesting case. If a strong physical fighter fights him early on, he might be killed pretty quickly. However, if he's able to fuse and create his Lake Jutsu, he might actually have the potential to kill a large number of the S-Class. However, it would also kill most of the Akatsuki. Ultimately, I don't think he'd be able to put up with the very strongest. While writing the script, I almost forgot about Konan. To keep it brief, she's one of the weakest members, and someone like Genos would probably one-shot her with an incineration cannon. Same thing goes for Zetsu. Finally, we can look at who I think are the big boys of both teams. Obito, Pain, and Itachi versus Flashy, Silver Fang, Metal Bat, and Atomic Samurai. I think everyone here would be just about around the same level of speed, with the S-Class having a slight but pretty good edge in physical strength, but obviously having less hacks. Atomic Samurai would probably lose in a 1v1 versus all three of them, only able to put out mountain level attacks one time before hurting himself, and not having the more consistent light speed scaling. Metal Bat is interesting. It's highly likely that if any of them fought Metal Bat who was fully amped up from the beginning, they might get blitzed in one shot. However, they could probably all pull off a win before that happens, either through Amaterasu, ripping out his soul, or Kamui respectively. That goes for Flashy and Silver Fang as well, but to a lesser degree, as their baselines are stronger and faster than Metal Bat's baseline. Of the three, I think the biggest threat here is Itachi, as long as he gets his Susanoo out. If he does, the Yatamir would be capable of blocking any of their physical attacks, and literally no hero has any defense against the Totsuka blades sealing them. I haven't brought up Tsukuyomi because honestly I don't think Chakra is something that other characters would have in a cross-verse matchup, given how it's shown how chakra networks are a very specific and unique part of the, quote, human physiology in Naruto. Due to being 100% physical fighters, they also have no way around to counter Obito's Kamui, and would probably be eventually killed by him if they could not figure it out, and even if they could, they don't have tools like Minato's teleportation to counter it. So, by the skin of their teeth, the Akatsuki would probably barely bring in a win, as the strongest members would out-hacks and sweep up any of the members who didn't.
That's terrible tornado!
Yeah, honestly, this video could have been Tatsumaki by herself versus the Akatsuki. She simply scales to a level of strength none of the members can compete with, and is fast enough that none of them are blitzing her. With her ability to literally tear things apart at the cellular level with her mind and manipulate dozens of objects larger and smaller than a person, she might be able to instantly crush the entire organization at once without much difficulty. Honestly, I think a better match for her would be someone like Madara. If you made it this far, thank you so much for watching. This is hands down probably going to be the largest edited project I've worked on, and yet the only reason I felt confident enough to do it was because of your support, and now that we're almost reaching 100 subscribers, hopefully by the time this comes out that's true. But either way, that's all for today. Thank you so much for watching. See ya.